our gratitude to all the nurses in our community, the nurses and our families who get up every day and go to work, and sometimes in very difficult and challenging conditions. And just know that we are behind you, we support you, and we appreciate everything that you do for our community.
Thank you, Mayor Penko. Thumbs up across the board. CEO Morris, do you want to move into director's reports then?
Yeah, yes. So let's start with Chief Cheeseborough.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two updates for Committee of the Whole this evening. The first one regarding our emergency control group who met last week. In Ontario, we're up to 480,000 cases. There's 8,187 deaths. Across Canada, it's been increased to 1.26 million cases with 24,450 deaths. But thankfully in Lanark, Leeds, Grenville, our case count for a total of 1,662 cases. We've had 1,541 cases resolved, 59 deaths, but currently we're at 62 active cases. There is only one active case in hospital. There is no cases in ICU or on ventilation. The province announced that they will be coming forth with a policy on sick days for the employers. As of today, that policy has not been passed by the government. It's a proposal, so we're waiting to see whether or not when that's going to come into play. We're also awaiting a decision from the province on the stay-at-home or the shutdown order possibly be extended. Reports earlier today had indicated that that possibly could be extended into June the 2nd. Dr. Stewart reported we're generally doing well with the cases, with a small spike due to the construction site in Kingston. Our case numbers would indicate, if we were back in the color zone, that we would be between yellow and orange. Lanark, Leeds, Grenville region has responded extremely well to the current shutdown. The vaccines are increasing significantly across our county, and the vaccination clinics at the arena will be increasing the capacity and adding an additional day. We're doing community clinics as well. Right now, they haven't been advertised, but they will be expanded, and that's to ensure the transportation is not a barrier. The phase 2 of the vaccination to open to essential workers and municipalities. There will be a clinic on May 21st for municipal workers and frontline social service workers. It is anticipated we should have enough vaccine by the end of June to vaccinate 70% of the population through Lanark, Leeds, Grenville. And the second doses are in the system and scheduled, and we will be starting that hopefully in the second week of June. That is my update on our last meeting.
Great, thank you, Chief Cheeseborough. We've got Councillor Brennan up first.
Thanks, Chief, and thank you to the emergency control group. I don't know how many dozens of meetings you've attended in the last year. So just so I'm clear on the what you're talking about, the essential workers, will our municipal staff be included in that? Staff at the town hall and staff all across the board?
Through the chair, that's an excellent question. The mayor has lobbied in his weekly, bi-weekly meetings to increase the availability for the number of staff. And the municipal workers and frontline workers, yes, office staff at this point have not been included in that phase 2. We've requested through Dr. Stewart and through the mayor that certainly the emergency control group and those staff that are currently working in the offices, not working from home, be included. So what the province has indicated is, now we've heard today that they'll be reducing the age limit down to 40 and putting more Pfizer and Moderna in the pharmacies. But as for your specific question, we've received no further instructions with regards to office staff.
Thanks for that. I hope they are soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Any further questions? All right, seeing none, I think we're good for your report. Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Chair, my second report is concerning the incident which took place on Thursday evening. There's been a tremendous amount of interest expressed in what took place, and I just wanted to provide a brief update on the situation. So early Thursday evening, shortly after 7:30, the fire department received a call of a strong smell of diesel fuel with a sheen on the water. The fire department responded. Upon arrival, they did witness the same. They immediately deployed our booms that go in the water to protect the spillway and to protect the diesel fuel that was proceeding into the lock area. At that time, we had met with Parks Canada, who was on scene. We immediately notified Spills Action Center, the Provincial Emergency Operations Center, and the Ministry of Environment, along with Canada Coast Guard and Parks Canada, were notified immediately. The fire department took immediate and very quick response in deploying the equipment to contain it. But we need to understand that the fire department only contains it. It's the responsibility of the individuals involved where the spill was originated to deal with the situation. And in fact, management from Laboat had immediately contacted Tomlinson Environmental, who arrived Thursday evening, assessed the situation, and returned Friday morning to start cleanup efforts. During the cleanup efforts, we released a press release indicating what took place and what the extent of the amount of diesel/water mixture that had entered that way. At no time was the municipal water system compromised or a concern. The spillway was protected. And in fact, when Tomlinson returned on Friday, they brought additional equipment to assist in containing it and to protect the spillway. They were there all day Friday. They returned, were there all day Saturday. At the conclusion of Saturday afternoon, they'd indicated that they had believed that they had vacuumed up all material that was present or that was visible. They assessed it on Sunday with the intent of returning today, which they did. I had kept the emergency operations, our Provincial Emergency Operations Center, along with Spills Action and Canada Coast Guard, updated every 3 hours from Thursday evening through till this morning. At the conclusion of today, Tomlinson was hopeful that they would not have to return tomorrow, but they may, as a precautionary, just in case over the course of the night anything else was turned up in the water, so that they could alleviate that as well. Each day they were there, they continued to remove the existing booms that were in the water and replace with new booms. They monitored the lower basin, and at no time did they detect or have any visual confirmation that any of the fuel had leaked through the locks down into the lower basin. So it was a very aggressive approach, both by the town, once we were made aware of it, the fire department, as well as Tomlinson being contacted by Laboat. It was an accidental release. There was approximately 100 liters in total that they determined had gone into the canal area. But reports from Tomlinson and certainly the Spills Action Center that the quick action was able to contain that. And again, I know that there's been concern about it, but we're quite hopeful by the end of today, if not by tomorrow, their operation will be concluded. That is my update.
Great, thank you, Chief. Councillor Dwyer.
Thanks, Chief. I think that incident sparked a lot of concern and confusion within the community, as I think it continues to. I can appreciate that the town's role in this, I believe, is quite limited, but I'm looking for confirmation of two things. One is, Malcolm, can you refresh my memory? We are not the owner of those tanks. They are owned by Parks Canada. Is that correct?
Through the chair, the tanks and fueling equipment are owned by the town.
Okay.
We do not operate.
Okay. Thank you. Chief, I appreciate that our role in kind of what comes next is probably pretty limited. But can you describe for the public what sort of accountability or review will entail from here? Is there a legislative authority who will investigate the occurrence and make recommendations to ensure that this doesn't happen again?
Yes, through the chair. And your first question with regards to the tanks, I just wanted, I should have mentioned this at the start. The release of the diesel fuel was not from the tanks, it was from a physical vessel. So there was a water line that was inadvertently placed into the diesel tank, which caused the diesel tank to spill out into the waterway. The reporting mechanism that takes place is our responsibility as responding agency is twofold: to contain if possible, and to report to the Spills Action Center. Once we've done the reporting mechanism, the Spills Action Center then is the lead agency between the Ministry of Environment, the Coast Guard, because it's a federal waterway, Parks Canada, because it's within their property line, and they communicate back and forth as to who will do the follow-up investigation. As I'd indicated, my report every 3 hours to those agencies are documented, and they will do a follow-up. They will review the policies and procedures of the company or vessel owner that's involved, and both make recommendations on how to prevent future similar situations, and to ensure that they have safety protocol in place. I've dealt with the base manager from Lombard, who's indicated that they're taking a very proactive approach to this, that they are now going to outfit most of their boats with this booming and socks in the event that it happened in an open waterway, let alone in the enclosed basin. They're going to have information posted within the boats, and that all the management staff and staff that work with their firm are well versed in the emergency procedures. I've also asked if we could see a copy of that once it's complete, just to ensure that the reporting mechanism in the event of an accident, because the fire department is equipped to deal and contain with it, that we're also included in that document.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Chief. And I think the communication was exceptional on this. It got out early and often, and I really appreciated that. I would encourage the public and council not to speculate on what's going to happen next, and let the investigation proceed, and we'll see what lessons we can learn from this and how to avoid it in the future. But I'd really like that investigation to have its time and not get ahead of ourselves. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Councillor McKenna. Any other questions? I have one, Chief, just based on cost recovery. This is kind of an unusual situation. How does that work for this kind of an event?
With regards to the fire department, we will be submitting an invoice for the material that was used for the vehicle responses, as well as the staffing costs associated with this call.
Great, thank you very much. So if we have no further questions, appreciate everything that you've had to put into the last few days. Thank you.
So next up, Mr. Chair, we have Director Manhire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few quick updates from community services today. We did do a tree giveaway that people were aware of. We worked with the county that provided us with some saplings that all fit the tree canopy policy recommended species. They were given away within the first minute of being available today. And so that's 200 trees that we will be seeing in the community for years to come, which is very nice. We have reached out to the county. They have given away all of their trees, but it was also provided through RVCA, and we've reached out to RVCA to see if there might be some more available. If there are, we will post it on social media and arrange for additional pickups. As the chief indicated, we had an incident in the basin over this weekend. We had actually arranged to have the swans released on Friday morning, and obviously decided that wasn't the best time, and they will be released as soon as we get the all clear from Parks Canada and the environment folks. Also down in Centennial Park area, just so the public is aware, the fountains are back up and running, as well as the staff removed the statue that's down there and had that all refurbished and is put back up in place now. So it's actually quite lovely if you get a chance to walk down through the park. I encourage people to take a look. Also, I just wanted to announce that Heritage House Museum was successful in receiving a Trillium grant for a funded position that we will have for the next year. And that funded position is actually designed to try to look for revenue generating and revenue enhancing options for cultural services. So the recruitment is in place at this point for that position. And we are looking at having that person develop ideas and concepts that we can kind of bring forward to the board there, as well as to other cultural services in the community. So we will be reaching out to the Railway Museum as well to see if there are crossover options there that can work for us. So this is part of resiliency funding and helping to set up cultural services so that we can maximize income options for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Manhire. Any questions on the report? I think I was down in the park this weekend. It was great to see the fountains going and the lights are all fixed up. So that looked really good. I'm wondering on our beautiful Duck Island lease space, the goose poop is starting to accumulate. And I'm wondering what kind of things we do to manage that and keep it under control.
Mr. Chair, the staff go down and they are maintaining the parks on a regular basis now because things are starting to grow. We're starting to get a little bit of a hint that the weather might warm up and actually get things going. So they will be taking care of that at the same time. We also have reached out, just as a heads up to that, I've reached out to Parks Canada and we've had several conversations over the years around opportunities to try to mitigate some of the nesting opportunities for geese in the basin, and there are a few options that are not terribly practical for us, but we're looking for ways that we can implement those and still have the same kind of effect. So I'm hoping to get a resolution to that. I'm meeting with them on Wednesday to take a look at other options.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
CO Morse.
Our third verbal report comes from Director Dunlop.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 4 updates to share from Public Works this evening. The first, I just want to touch base on Beckwith Phase 1. Tolmanson, their landscape contractor, UCC and Parsons walked the site on Beckwith Street last week. The landscape materials that are needed include perennials. We have a tree that was broken last fall. Those materials are going to be ordered, and we've asked that work be completed as soon as possible, and with recognition of the long weekend coming up. We're also expecting to receive a schedule tomorrow on their timeline for all the remaining deficiencies that are outstanding on Phase 1. In terms of Beckwith Phase 2, you probably saw we released notification on Facebook and also on the town's web news feed last week that we have the materials now posted on Speak Up Smiths Falls. We also have links in our news feed to the documentation that we have up. So we're certainly inviting the public to take a look at the various features in Phase 2 and chime in on the gateway. Provide comments on the streetscape environment that we've rolled out for Phase 2, and also provide some commentary on the geometry of the street, including the street crossings and whatnot. So that information's up, and we are seeing an uptake on comments on Speak Up Smiths Falls, which is good, and we have that open until May 19th. So we're hoping to see more input by that date. Third update, the Lombard and Abbott and the Cornelia Street projects, 2 of our biggest road projects this year. Just a quick reminder that both of those contracts were awarded to D Squared out of Ottawa. We're anticipating having a kickoff meeting with their company in the last week of May to talk about the rollout of those projects. When it comes to the Lombard Abbott intersection, you probably see a lot of lines painted out there. That's just them staying ahead of the utility locate so that they're ready to go. There are, however, a series of materials that they do have to order. So we'll be talking on how that project rolls out. We're also going to be having conversation with D Squared about the coordination between the two projects, because inherently when they're both going, that could have a tremendous impact on traffic in town. So we're going to be working with them on that as well. The last update for this evening, the RFPs went out last week for our active transportation plan and also the George Street design. Those will both close on May 27th. And we were seeing a lot of uptake from consulting community on that, which is great. We're hoping to get the Confederation Bridge RFP out this week. That's kind of one of our last major projects to launch, and we're definitely committed to getting out the door this month. So lots of things going on in Public Works in the month of May. Thank you.
That's really exciting and action-packed. Councillor Dwyer, you have a question?
Thank you. Just on the note of Beckwith Street and the walkthrough with Tomlinson, Troy, can you indicate whether or not there's been a need to replace any of the existing street trees that were planted last year? I noticed when I was out that several of them have not budded yet, and I just don't know, looking at them, if they're a late blooming species or if that's going to be assessed as part of this checklist that Tomlinson gives us, or if there's going to be a need, we think, to replace some of the trees.
Great question. We were nervously awaiting that very question and speaking with their team last week. And from what we've been advised by UCC, some of those trees are late budders. We want to remind council that the trees are under warranty, but the indication we received from the walkthrough last week is there's only one tree that has to be replaced. So we will be keeping a close eye on that and the maintenance. We do know that it will take a concerted effort to make sure those thrive, and they will need the most of their attention in the first 2 years of their establishment in the downtown.
Councillor McKenna.
Thanks for the update, Director Dunlop. On the deficiency list for Beckwith Street, and I hesitate to even mention it, it's so minor, but if you've got a deficiency list going, now's the time to, there's a beautiful eccentric sign called Chambers Street East. And there really is no Chambers Street East. When they put it in, it's on the far side of Beckwith at the bottom of the hill. There's only Chambers Street as far as I know. And I mean, I'd like to get my hands on it because I think it was just a little error, but I don't believe there is a Chambers Street East that I'm aware of. So
Mr.
anyway,
Chair, that's something we're going to have to investigate. I can tell you that the signs that were ordered were like for like.
okay.
I'm curiously looking to run to Google Street View to see what it said before, but needless to say, we'll make sure that they're accurate. Good thing is we're going to have sign plates ordered for phase 2. So if there's a correction there, we'll make sure we take care of it.
Maybe it's supposed to say that. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds like a future trivia coming down the pipes in their panko.
Troy, can you bring us up to date on the old single light standard, traffic light standard at the corner of Chambers, and when we can anticipate that being replaced?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That one's been a frustration for staff. We are to get a schedule for the replacement of that fixture tomorrow. I should point out that this, in terms of sequencing, we are going to be ordering the pole in terms of the town, and then we are going to have Black & McDonald price the installation. So we wanted to approach that to manage any costs in terms of replacement. But again, it come down to the ordering of a customized pole. So those details should be coming in tomorrow, and I'll gladly share them with council.
Yeah, and for the benefit of the public, can you explain why that pole has not been replaced at this point?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when you look at when the renovations for the Stone Arch Bridge were completed and the barriers were reconstructed, part of the barrier wall actually encompasses over the bottom of where where the streetlight post is mounted onto the bridge deck, and it's not a design where we can replace the foundation, i.e. dig it up and put in a new foundation and just plop the new pole on. The reality is is that bolt pattern is formed right into the deck of the Stone Arch Bridge. And if you were to peek around the corner by the steps, it's actually in airspace. So it's actually on the cantilevered section of the deck. So it really limits our options to deal with it. There's been I should be transparent, there's been a bit of back and forth between the design team and the subcontractor, but we've come to an agreement on an approach, but it will involve the purchase of a custom pole that the base will in fact fit into that little, we'll call it pocket that's in the ornamental barrier wall. So that's the situation there. It's unfortunate.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Director Dunlap. I know we really appreciate you coming to our accessibility committee meetings with the deficiencies and the phase 2 consultations. So thank you very much for that. And CO Morris, we'll move on to our last report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the spirit of planting things, I want to plant a seed in your mind. The AMO conference is coming up in mid-August, and the deadline to submit delegation requests is June 4th. So I just want to encourage you to think about any delegation topics you might be thinking about and would like to bring forward with one of the ministers. So we have a little bit of time. We're going to discuss it as a staff group next Monday and identify things from a staff perspective. But I just want you to think about that, and we'll have a more fulsome discussion at a future committee of the whole meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Any questions for CO Morris? Seeing none, thank you for all the director's reports tonight. Our first item, 6.1, is a correspondence item from the town of Caledon. It's a letter to the Federal Minister of Health. It's about 388, a 3-digit suicide and crisis prevention hotline. There's been a motion at the House of Commons that is pushing this forward, and the town of Caledon has written a motion at their council to endorse it. Is this something that we want to put on a future COW agenda? Seeing nodding heads, great. So Deputy Clerk Bennett will look forward to seeing that on the agenda at a future meeting. And then moving into 7.1, we have sludge tank mixer shaft with the wastewater supported capital reserve with Mr. Barlow.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairperson McGuire, Mayor, members of council. Tonight's report 2021-058 is for the replacement of the sludge tank mixer shaft. The purpose of the report is to seek council's approval on an out of budget expenditure of $9,786 plus freight and taxes to be funded through the wastewater supported capital reserve funds. At the wastewater plant, we utilize 2 sludge tanks to store the sludge that are collected in our primary settling for our dewatering facilities. Earlier this year, the casing for the gear assembly on sludge tank number 2 failed as a result of the bent shaft. The casing has been repaired, but in trying to procure a new shaft, it was evident that the pricing of this product and materials had drastically increased over the past year. And the quote for the replacement for the mixer shaft from Graytech Limited is the $9,786. And this cost is substantially higher than what was expected. The 2 sludge tanks are critically important to the solids handling at facility. Without both tanks in service, we do run the risk of deterring the quality of treatment that the facility requires. So we need to make sure we get this repaired. And staff are recommending funding the mixer shaft purchase from the wastewater supported capital reserve fund.
Great, thank you, Mr. Barlow. Any questions on the report? Seeing none, we've got nodding heads all around. Thank you for getting this to us tonight.
Thank you.
And then that brings us to 7.2, award of tender with Director Manhire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is relatively straightforward as well. We put out a tender number 21 CS 001 for the purchase of replacement of 2 vehicles, one for Public Works and one for the Community Services Department. We had one bid that we received from Mike Fair Chev Buick GMC, in the amount of $75,280 plus applicable HST, and the non-refundable HST amounts to brings the total to $76,604.93 for the two vehicles. There is a bit of a supply issue happening with vehicles at this point, and we were advised that production for 2020 has sold out. Production for 2021 models only begins at the end of summer. And so we're trying to get into the queue for that production date.
Great. Councillor Dwyer.
Thank you. I have no problem with this approach, but Mr. Manhart, can you, have you had any sort of indication from Mike Fairs about what the inflation on the vehicles might look like for next year? I know across the board, price indexes seem to be skyrocketing. Are we anticipating that if we don't secure a third vehicle this year, that the price is going to increase dramatically?
Mr. Chair, it's a great question because we have seen dramatic increases in some other materials, but we have not seen a dramatic increase, a slight increase for the vehicles, but we haven't seen the same kind of dramatic increases we have for some other materials, where construction materials, as an example, are anywhere from 40 to 75% higher than they were last year. We are not seeing that for the vehicles at this point. And they're not anticipating that. It was a question of supply from both. I also talked to the sales manager at the Ford dealership, who indicated the same issue, which is one of the reasons why they didn't actually bid.
Thanks, Director Manhire. Councillor Alford, did you have your hand up? No, okay. Seeing no other questions then, I think we're good to go. There's consensus, so we'll bring that to the next meeting of council. Thank you, Director Manhire. Our next item is an in-camera issue under 8, so I will take a motion to move in camera. Moved by Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Alford. All those in favor? So Dave, if you can